Late on June 14, 2015, deputies in Greene County, Missouri, were shocked to find seemingly doting mother, Clauddine Dee Dee Blanchard, dead in her home. Even more concerning, Dee Dee's young handicapped daughter, Gypsy Rose, was missing, without her wheelchair. Gypsy Rose was quickly found states away in Wisconsin with her online boyfriend, Nicholas Godejohn. The world was shocked when it was revealed that Gypsy Rose had none of the ailments that her mother claimed, and she never actually needed the wheelchair that was so synonymous with her life. As always, this voiceover contains graphic content, adult themes, and violence. Viewer discretion is advised. Gypsy Rose Blanchard was born to Clauddine Dee Dee Blanchard and then husband Rod Blanchard in 1991. From birth, Dee Dee claimed Gypsy Rose had medical issues upon medical issues. As a baby, Dee Dee claimed that Gypsy Rose had sleep apnea. And at only 8 years old, Gypsy Rose was described by her mother as suffering from leukemia and muscular dystrophy, leading the young girl to require both a wheelchair and a feeding tube. Gypsy Rose's medical diagnoses would pile up as her life continued. Conditions that Gypsy allegedly suffered from went on to include seizures, asthma, hearing impairments, and visual impairments. Medical tests taken by Gypsy Rose usually appeared inconclusive or even had contradictory results to what Gypsy's diagnoses were claimed to be. Dee Dee had medical training as a nurse and was skilled at describing the appropriate problems and symptoms to make Gypsy appear to have the conditions she was claimed to have. And if words weren't enough, Dee Dee would medicate Gypsy Rose in order to induce the appropriate symptoms, such as making her appear less lucid than she truly was, or to impair her to make her seem younger than her actual age. Gypsy would eventually have all of her teeth pulled, her head would be continually shaved by Dee Dee, and she was fed a mixture of Pediasure through her feeding tube through most of her life. In 2005, Hurricane Katrina destroyed the apartment that a now single Dee Dee Blanchard was living in with her daughter Gypsy Rose. The mother-daughter duo found solace in a shelter set up for individuals with special needs. But all of Gypsy Rose's medical records, as well as her birth certificate, were lost to the flooding. This made it easy for Dee Dee Blanchard to continue fabricating an extensive medical history for her daughter, and also allowed her to convince Gypsy that her age was far younger than she truly was. Dee Dee Blanchard continued her ruse, and the small, seemingly loving family was awarded with many charity donations and gifts due to their tragic story that garnered much media attention. Gypsy Rose was a darling poster child for those with special needs, receiving the Olay Foundation's Child of the Year in 2007, stays at the Ronald McDonald houses during medical appointments, trips to Disney World, and backstage passes to Miranda Lambert concerts via the Make-A-Wish Foundation. The duo also had a house built for them in Gypsy's favorite shade of pink by Habitat for Humanity. Despite being constant recipients of donations, Gypsy's father Rod also continued to support the family via monthly child support payments and loved sending Gypsy gifts, as well as speaking to her on the phone. Rod Blanchard repeatedly tried to visit Gypsy Rose, but it was always evaded by Dee Dee, who would change plans, claim they had medical appointments, or just ignore and avoid him altogether. All the while telling her new neighbors that Rod was a drug addict, an alcoholic, who couldn't tolerate his daughter's extensive medical issues and had left them in the dust financially. During the times of heavy media coverage, Dee Dee would resort to physical abuse to keep Gypsy in line, so there would be no possible indications that Gypsy wasn't in fact suffering from any medical conditions. Dee Dee would reportedly hold her daughter's hand during interviews and squeeze Gypsy's hand tightly when she felt she was giving away too much information or not appearing sick enough. Behind closed doors, Dee Dee allegedly struck Gypsy many times with both her hands as well as wire coat hangers. A few doctors reportedly became concerned that Gypsy's diagnoses were fabricated and suspected Munchausen syndrome by proxy, a condition where a caregiver gives the appearance of health problems in another person, typically their child. Dee Dee would discontinue seeing any skeptical medical professional she came across, and just find new doctors willing to blindly believe the medical history concocted by her. As Gypsy Rose got older, she began to take an interest in things a typical girl of her age would be interested in: makeup, boys, friends, and hobbies, including cosplay events and science fiction or fantasy conventions. Gypsy Rose was becoming a person in her own right, and it became harder for Dee Dee to maintain control over her. After a convention when she was 19, Gypsy Rose was found by her mother in a hotel room with a man she had met online. Dee Dee immediately produced her forged documents that showed Gypsy Rose was underage and threatened to call the police on the man. Gypsy left the hotel with her mother, and when they returned home, Dee Dee smashed Gypsy's computer with a hammer and threatened to do the same to Gypsy's fingers if she ever ran away again. After this incident, Dee Dee handcuffed Gypsy to her bed for 2 weeks and told her daughter that she had filed paperwork, claiming that she was medically incompetent. This led Gypsy to believe that if she went to the police about her mother's abuse, she wouldn't be taken seriously. Despite the tighter leash kept on Gypsy by her mother, Gypsy managed to gain internet access by sneaking onto Dee Dee's computer and other methods. During this time, Gypsy would meet Nicholas Godejohn on a Christian singles group. Nicholas had his own litany of problems, medical and self-induced, ranging from possible autism or dissociative identity disorder, as well as a record for indecent exposure. Nicholas and Gypsy would speak whenever possible, eventually moving to video chatting and including BDSM elements into their chats. Gypsy would later state that she was uncomfortable with the BDSM aspect of their relationship, but she went along with it at the time regardless. Gypsy knew that her mother would never allow her to meet someone from the internet due to not only the hotel room incident, but because in Dee Dee's mind, Gypsy had no internet access. To thwart any issues her mother had with an internet romance, Gypsy planned for Nicholas to travel to visit her in Missouri, where they would arrange a chance meeting at the showing of the movie Cinderella at a local theater. Nicholas traveled to the theater and attempted to casually meet Gypsy. Dee Dee did not find this casual meeting to be a good thing and found Nicholas's behavior to be creepy and forbid her daughter from speaking to the awkward 20-something-year-old. Gypsy that day would sneak off into the bathroom during the movie and had sexual intercourse with him. After the failed meeting, Gypsy knew that she had to free herself from the grip of her abusive mother and began planning the murder of Dee Dee Blanchard with her new love Nicholas, who lived in Wisconsin. The pair made plans for Nicholas to come back to Missouri and carry out the deed of murdering Dee Dee Blanchard in order to save Gypsy. On the night of June 14, 2015, Nicholas was let into the Blanchard house by Gypsy Rose, who gave him duct tape, a knife she had purchased at a sporting goods store, and gloves in order to murder her mother. Despite the intense months of planning, and Nicholas actually traveling to the home, Gypsy later claimed that she didn't think Nicholas would be able to go through with it. Gypsy was wrong. Gypsy hid herself in the bathroom while Nicholas entered Dee Dee's room. Dee Dee was stabbed several times in the back while she was sleeping, reportedly screaming for Gypsy's help as she died. After the murder, Nicholas and Gypsy had sex in her bedroom, took $4,000 from Dee Dee's money stash, and fled the crime scene, leaving behind all of Gypsy's medications as well as her wheelchairs. The pair mailed the murder weapon back to Nicholas's house prior to getting on a bus to the same location. They didn't want to be caught with the murder weapon. Once at Nicholas's house, Gypsy became concerned that her mother's body wouldn't be found in a timely manner. Gypsy decided it would be best to post a Facebook status on the pair's joint account to lead someone to discover the body. The first posted message simply read, "The bitch is dead." The status was followed by another saying, "I slashed that fat pig and raped her sweet innocent daughter. Her scream was so loud. LOL." These Facebook statuses would be how investigators eventually found Gypsy Rose. Detectives tracked the IP address to Nicholas Godejohn's residence, and authorities swiftly descended on the Wisconsin home. Both Gypsy and Nicholas were arrested and taken into custody on the charges of murder and felony armed criminal action. Neighbors, friends, and family were relieved that Gypsy was found, but stood shocked when they were confronted with the fact that Gypsy was not only involved with the murder, but that all of her medical conditions had been faked. And Gypsy could walk. During the trial, Gypsy's lawyers painted her story as one of horrible abuse, leading to sympathy from the jurors as well as most of the country. The case was called by County Prosecutor Dan Patterson as extraordinary and unusual, and due to the extenuating circumstances, Patterson did not want to seek first-degree murder, which could have carried the death penalty for Gypsy. Gypsy eventually secured a plea bargain for second-degree murder and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Nicholas Godejohn faced far more serious charges, as he actually committed the act of murder, and prosecutors stated he initiated the murder plot. Nicholas's lawyers said that he had an IQ of merely 82, was on the autism spectrum, and suggested diminished capacity. Gypsy eventually testified against her boyfriend, and after 4 days at trial, Nicholas was found guilty of first-degree murder and armed criminal action. Nicholas was sentenced to life in prison for his actions, but was spared his life due to prosecutors declining to seek the death penalty. Nicholas also received an additional 25 years for his conviction of armed criminal action. Gypsy Rose Blanchard is now in her late 20s and is serving her 10-year sentence at Chillicothe Correctional Center in Missouri. She'll be eligible for parole in 2024, just before her 33rd birthday. I hope you enjoyed this episode of A Brief History. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.